Hello, guys. It's been a while, but I really thought that I need to just summarize my macro thoughts for you guys. And one of the main things that I want to cover uh, before we get into chart levels and that stuff, it's that I believe that timing the market right now is much more important than arbitrary price levels. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? Sorry, I'll be clearing my throat up throughout the course of this video, just recovering from a cold. So just bear with me. Now, the thing is, initially I had mapped out for the pullback. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while, you guys would know that I was heavily buying in the 89 to 90,000 range. And the reason was simply because I was extremely bullish on a pump leading into the inauguration. So earlier, my levels were closer to, 84, 85,000. We never got to those levels. But timing, as I said, is much more important than a price level. So when we initially swept these lows, we had a bunch of liquidations. This is a demand region, and technically, we are in the lower half of the range, right? So we're in the lower half of this like VWAP range. We swept into it, and then around 90.4K when we reclaimed, like when we were about to reclaim, I actually got in quite early and had a Pico bottom entry. So I got in long there. If we are to zoom in, the first profit-taking area for me was around 95,000, and then I sold it around 98.5 thousand once we had this pullback. So, there was a lot of uncertainty on the lower time frames as to whether this low will hold. So, during this phase, I sold my leveraged positions here, and then the rest of the remaining position, I've just gotten out of it. I had like 20% of my original position after 98.5K TP. So I just got out of it right now, simply because I want to take a break and for the weekend at least, and be back and be sharp for the inauguration. Because when you go into macro events, Trump inauguration and the entire election scenario has been really pivotal to the entire cycle, really. So it, it is always better to just be non-biased and not have a position going into these scenarios. You can have runners, but don't put on new risk just heading into the event. Okay. Now, I mentioned that I have a view that is slightly controversial because right now the entire timeline, or literally everyone on Twitter, is just talking about either a sell the news or a pump to all-time highs. So I am leaning towards not a strong push to all-time highs because we are already at the highs, right? We did not have a de-risking event at all. And what I think will happen in the short term is, and of course, like this is just speculation on my end, right? So if we just get a volume profile over our range, we have broken out above the value area high. And now we're in this thin volume environment. Okay. In this case, we have just banged up against an NPOC. So this was an NPOC. Just give me a second. So this was an NPOC, and then we have another NPOC around 106,000. Okay. Now you can't blindly short NPOCs. That's not how trading works. I wish it were that simple. Unfortunately, it isn't. But this aligns perfectly with a volume gap, and then simultaneously we have like a supply cluster over here. Okay, so if we are to get some sort of a rejection from here, okay, I believe that if we don't over the next couple of days, there's a possibility. That's it. Like I don't want you to get tied to the 104,000 level. Like my average exit right now, including everything, was just 102,000. Okay. So my point is that like I long 90,000 and my final exit was around 102. So I got a good trade out of this. I got a 10% move on Bitcoin. And the reason I don't want you to get attached to price levels is because you can be holding for, 106,000 and you can say that, okay, this is where I'll take profits. But it might go to 105 and then roll over from there. And I really think that the true test of strength in our current move would be somewhere around a retest of these levels. Just let me get it right. Sorry if you get some background noise. I'm at the airport lounge. Yep. So the reason I am emphasizing this particular level as extremely important is because it also aligns with our VWAP bands. Okay. Now, if we are to hold on, yeah, something like this. Okay. So if we are to hold on to this level and the top band of the VWAP, which is currently our monthly or new quote unquote new quarterly VWAP, we can get another band in there. And you can keep adding bands, but I like to stick to the first two bands and just keep all of my focus there. So on the higher time frames, we remain extremely bullish. I do not see a lack of momentum whatsoever. But I do believe that the inauguration will be some sort of a sell the news, but it won't be an immediate sell the news. Okay. Now, this is what people are not talking about. Everyone's talking about how this is, the top or whatever, or this could be a sell the news. But essentially, I believe that it can just be a nothing burger because there's a very low probability that like Trump issues an executive order that of a Bitcoin reserve, which is what the speculative bet is. Okay, when we were at the November, my I think one of my like career's best trades is just going long before the election. So we initially like went long around 64,000, somewhere around here. Like after we had this, we moved back up. It was a momentum long and then we took a long at 53,000. Okay. So those two are probably like the trades that I'm proudest of. And I never took off exposure until the election where I just added more. Now, the election scenario was completely different, where we had a pre election sell off. And a pre election sell off was pretty I would say it was pretty extreme to the point where it was 10%. And then once we had Trump, and since then, we've had a barrage of, I talked about this as well, that Bitcoin has been relatively strong with respect to the stock market. And that has continued till now. I believe quarter one is a time, or at least like till quarter two, 2025. I think that can continue where we'll be increasingly correlated with the SPX, but in essence, we will be much stronger. Just for example, SPX has like really, really taken off over the past few days. This was my level, election day open. I think I talked about this, and you can go look at my Twitter posts and see how we talked about a rejection at these levels, and then we talked about how it is going to hold the election day. This is where the Trump pump came in. We came here, and then we had like a gap up for more than 100 points. So. We just filled that gap, retested this support demand level, whatever you want to call it. You don't really want to do a lot of technical analysis, especially on higher time frames on the SPX. And now we're at 6,000. So now we're again in a sort of like a rejection zone because price has rejected here. We have chopped above here and rejected, and we had a pretty much like a Darth Maul candle on the Fed's Powell's meeting. So we just had that Darth Maul candle, and now we've rejected there about two times. But until we break above it, so until the SPX moves past this 60,000, like 6050 barrier, I do not think that you need to be excessively excited. Because if you got the long, right, you should be in a profit taking mindset, in my opinion. Now, what I think is a probable scenario again is right now. Let's take a look at what's happening right now. Okay, so this is the Coinbase CVD. So the Coinbase CVD, since we had that 90K low, has been really, really aggressive and marking us up. And then we had this in an early US session when the SPX had a pullback. So we had a US open dump. It was directly at this support resistance level. We filled this imbalance, and then the spot T-Worps activated again. One thing that people don't talk about is that the more MicroStrategy goes up as a result of the SPX just drifting up, the more Sailor can raise per week and push into the markets. Okay. So Coinbase is aggressively buying right now. And at the same time, Binance is aggressively selling. Now, the volume that Binance is selling is much, much smaller, especially like Binance has different pairs. So this is a pair that miners or maybe whales use occasionally. So I think what is happening right now is that people who were positioned for a long, long time are now taking profits, while Coinbase, as a result of the SPX and as a result of the MSTR premium moving up, just keeps on pushing higher. So this is how MicroStrategy looks. Now you have to keep in mind the higher MicroStrategy moves, the more they are able to issue convertible notes, the more Sailor is able to buy Bitcoin. Now, since a late December low, this is up around 40%. And we initially had an extremely large 50% pullback. And since then, we are now back up 40%, which essentially just means that Sailor has more money to push into the market. And I believe the CVD or the TWOP orders that we saw is just that. Now, once we close for the weekend, I'm not sure what their order execution strategy would be. But if the SPX or MicroStrategy pulls back, what we can expect to happen is Trump gets into office. I really, really think that the first batch of executive orders will not have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Okay, and it might happen. I think there's a high likelihood of a Bitcoin reserve actually taking place, but simultaneously, it will take some time. And that's why I feel like his inauguration could be a bit of a nothing burger. And once the SPX pulls back, if it pulls back, there is a possibility of just a larger pullback than most people would be expecting. Okay. And by larger pullback, I don't mean that we're going to go to like 80K. What I mean is that we will keep on chopping at these levels, and there are a lot of asks here. And I might even see us, break all-time high and still fall back down, only to like do something like this. So the possibility, the higher we go before inauguration, I think the possibility of 100K, a sub 100K pullback becomes larger. If we are to, let's say, the TWOPs that we're seeing on Coinbase right now, I think once they stop, we have some sort of a pullback. Okay, it doesn't matter to what level. So once the TWOP that we talked about on Coinbase, once this slows down, possibly by the end of the US session into the weekend, I think we can have like some sort of a nasty pullback, move back above, and then we chop above 100K till inauguration. And once that happens, right, and once I get my scenario, we can see sort of a vicious pullback, at least to this daily level, and then move back up. Because the spot demand, like the spot bids, I can't show you like the platform right now. In my following video, I'll show you my spot order book data, which clearly shows that okay, the market has moved up too quickly, too much too quickly, and the spot bids. So once a market moves up like this, right, you are not sweeping lows, and there's not enough liquidity. So once we get such an aggressive move up, you need uh, resting orders to replenish. Now, what do I mean by that? At any given time, there are sell orders above us and there are buy orders below us, right? But when a market moves up this viciously, these buy orders have a slower pace of moving up along with price, which is essentially why there's a chance of the scenario that I'm mentioning. Until that happens, of course, you do not want to fade this trend. Like I am not quite interested in shorting this at least until inauguration, because I do believe that after inauguration we'll just range, and maybe we can catch some shorts in that scenario. Apart from that, my thoughts on altcoins, which is what I believe to be more important, is that we dump a lot, and the reason is simply that there is not enough money in the altcoin market to sustain the moves that we are having right now. In fact, like Bitcoin dominance, everyone was calling a top on it for a while now, in fact. And we did have like a November rally, and this was completely Trump. Okay. So, election day, once we had, it was like, Trump let the bulls out. And we had this vicious pullback on BTC dominance, which is what percentage of the crypto market, like the total crypto market, what percentage is that market cap with respect to Bitcoin? And Bitcoin is right now 58% of that. So a lot of people just keep on expecting this to go lower and lower and lower, and we somehow keep bouncing back. Uh, Another interesting chart right now is the total three chart. So the total three chart is all cryptocurrencies excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And we made an all-time high and we kind of swept it. So this was an all-time high, we swept it. The May all-time high, often known as the quote unquote real all-time high, just because we had a deleveraging event and this was just a lot of short covering heading into the November top. So we're still at those levels. Now, Bitcoin is so much higher, and a lot of other altcoins as well. The new altcoins, they have been capturing the market cap away from older coins, which essentially means that there's just not enough money to move the market as of this moment. So if there's not enough money in the market, there is a possibility that we just find resistance here again. And this can break through, but then we will still have some sort of a retest. And this retest is what I'm banking on. Once you get that retest on altcoins, that is the time to go max long altcoins. Okay. And that's fine. The dominance is shaping up. You don't really need to, chart it. I don't think charting Bitcoin dominance really does anything. But the true altcoin season, I believe, like 2021 was an anomaly. I don't think something like that can transpire. But I think most of the speculative capital will just flock to Bitcoin rather than other altcoins. Whereas the altcoins that have an alignment with the US government, the altcoins that can have ETFs, that can have reserves, and it doesn't matter if it plays out. The only thing that matters is whether there's speculation related to that. So I did make a tweet. Let's actually take a look at it. So I took this. I published this tweet, and this was on January 15th. Okay. So I talked about how all of these altcoins are some of the best longs, and I have taken profit on most of them. The new coins that I longed were LTC. So what I would say you need to focus a lot on are, okay, do they have a narrative under a new administration? Like how do each of these coins stand, or any coin that you want to long, how does that have a narrative with respect to a new administration? If we don't have that, I would suggest staying away from that particular altcoin. Like for example, Ethereum. I was long on Ethereum, and I just wanted to de-risk, so I closed. I still think that we are heading to at least 3550, and after that potentially 3650. So take it with a grain of salt because you don't know when Bitcoin can pull back. but Ethereum's strength, especially in quarter one, is still something that can be expected. But as far as seasonality goes, I think again speculation with respect to a staking ETF for Ethereum will be kind of like a local top again because the ETF has disappointed. There is not enough spot demand, and even if this pumps a lot, I think that could be, just another exit pump, which has been happening for a very long time now. So just keep an eye on that. And the reason I'm not advocating to short right now, and even on inauguration, is that you should get a chance. This thing is vicious right now. The Coinbase TWOPs that have been active the entire day, they are jamming in. Like as per my calculations, they've jammed in around 800 million or 850 million just today. So that could be Sailor, that could be a combination of Sailor and ETFs, but it is not your job to question who it is. I don't think that adds a lot of value. What does add a lot of value is that you don't fade the trend. Personally, I would like to have some time off this weekend and take off leverage while just holding a few spot positions. And that's about it. Okay. So uh, just just don't get overly leveraged here, is all I'll say. I'm not advocating for shorts. And the real reason is something else that I wanted to talk about was will Trump create a Bitcoin reserve in the first 100 days of his presidency? Okay. So the entire narrative at the time of election was that, okay, this is really bullish from a regulatory standpoint, which is why altcoins did amazingly well. Now, I do believe that altcoin market cap is at all-time highs. It has still not broken out, which means that it's the same capital we saw on the total three chart like just a moment ago. Okay, I'll pull it up again just so you guys with ADHD can still focus. So we are still at all-time highs and we're still consolidating there. And we had a pretty insane move up in November for this metric. This went up about $600 billion was added in total market cap over the course of just 20 days. So, and right now, when Trump's inauguration is getting closer, like, sure, we have added some amount of money here. We have added like 100 billion in market cap in a few days, but it's the same money rotating. So it's much more important to long specific altcoins and to ride those longs to fruition. So, for example, the XRP trade we took or the LTC trade we took, all of those trades went up more than 30-40%. Right. So it's much more important to nail those moves on very specific altcoins and still remain long biased on Bitcoin. Because the entire narrative right now is, the reason I believe that it won't be an immediate sell the news. And if it is a sell the news, we will just chop around in a range and then we have a gradual pullback, is because all of the speculation right now is whether the United States of America will have a Bitcoin reserve or not. Okay. And this kind of shows you the sentiment around this. So we have very low volume, I'll be honest. Like 2 million is absolutely nothing. This can be skewed by just three, four entities just placing bets. But the odds being at 42% right now, and well, like early January, I think it was like 22 cents. So it is 2x up since early January, which is like 15 days. So it's up 2x in 15 days. But until this reaches like even higher extremes, I do not think that a strategic reserve, if announced, is priced in. Okay, and if that happens, just be prepared for the golden bull run, I guess. But it will all be Bitcoin focused. Okay. So the reason I mentioned that, okay, I have sort of a controversial view on markets right now is because I believe that altcoins are going to have extremely harsh pullbacks. And Bitcoin kind of is not. So it depends on how high Bitcoin goes. It depends on how high certain altcoins go. But it's just that. And if you want me to cover the stuff that I wrote on my Twitter, so if you want me to cover like these altcoins and their charts also, just let me know. Comment below. And this will be the first of loads of regular market update videos as well as tutorials. So I appreciate any support that you guys have shown me earlier, and you continue to shower me with a lot of appreciation right now. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.